Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Spencer Strati with Argy Culture. Changing up the format a little bit of the post game coverage. I'm going to have a little bit of a face cam. I just want to start the video doing a little bit of self advertising. So, this is my logo for my other YouTube channel, Argy Culture. I like to do movie reviews, play video games, and everything in between, just pop culture stuff. So, if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Other than that, we'll just get right into the game. So yeah, on the new format, I'll kind of have stats up on the board. Excuse me. Periodically, I'll switch over to individual player stats. Just gives a little bit of a better viewing experience for you guys rather than just seeing the title screen. So hopefully, you guys like that change. So just wanted to say a few things. Also, I guess like more about the Aces. I might have a few extra tickets for the next game, so if anyone's interested, you guys can meet me. I would love to meet you guys. For those who watch me kind of religiously or make sure you guys. For those who watch my game post game every time, I really appreciate that. So if I can give a little bit back to you guys, of course I would love to do that. And of course your input's always like super appreciated. I love cultivating conversation about this team. I think it really does well for building the brand and everything like that. So I appreciate that. So I'm just going to go over some of my game notes here. They started out the game by exploiting mismatches, which was just something they haven't really done the entire season. Liz Cambage, they didn't have anyone to cover, and they went straight to it, and it was a really big difference. They were getting into the offense earlier too to make sure that they could exploit those mismatches, so that way New York was not really able to get set in their places. So it allowed Liz Cambage to catch it low on the block. They didn't have time to react. She either got a bucket, or in some cases, she was getting covered too low to almost to draw a double team. Passes it out to Kelsey Plum for a couple of 3-point shots. Speaking of Kelsey Plum, this is really, to me, like what I would say about this game is like this is what Kelsey Plum could be if she had the green light every day, and she simply does not. So what I'm trying to say is I wish like Lambier would allow her to do this every game, because when she's doing this, how could you possibly guard the post of Asia Wilson and Liz Cambage? It's impossible. It couldn't be done. And today she was completely dominant. Again, this is the worst team in the WNBA, so it's a little hard to say that this would be something that they can do every game, but they should be able to take notes away from this and be able to take that going forward and try to implement it more than what they have been against previous opponents. This team, like when Jackie Young is aggressive, when she's a main ball handler, it's when the team is best, which is incredible to say because she's a rookie, but it's absolutely true. When she's aggressive, like there is no game plan for Jackie Young, and there never will be. There are 4 other All-Stars in the starting lineup, so there has to be someone there. And when she's taking the ball to the rim, when she's passing the ball, she's very good at it, and the team becomes unstoppable because she's just a wild card out there. She can do whatever she wants because there's no attention on her. This again, like in my notes, I said the science is working out, and I mentioned it earlier. When you have dominant post players like Liz Cambage and Asia Wilson in the post, they're going to draw double teams, and that means that there are shooters out in the 3-point line. And they finally, I think this was the first game that they truly did this. They exploited that. They either had the one-on-one matchups, which you can live with all day for Liz Cambage and Asia Wilson, or you pass it out for good looks at the 3-point line, and they did that finally today. It was great to watch. It was very fun. They had a bit of a problem with loose balls in the first half. They got a little more into it. Hopefully that's something, that's something that the coach would mention to the players. It's on them to get them, and it's on the coach as well to remind them how important they are. I get that this game wasn't very close, but again, they're trying to build a team culture, and that's something that I also wanted to note in this game. This team doesn't exactly have a team culture yet, and I think that they started to develop one today, which sounds crazy, but I felt like today was a real like team building game because they had this kind of grit to them today that I haven't really seen. They played really good defense in the first game of the season, but today they kind of took it to another level where they were physical. Like that was kind of the whole thing throughout the entire game. They were physical basketball players, and I think that really worked out really well for them. Let's see. They also had a problem with defense. Like they were overplaying the passing lanes, which led to a few easy buckets. Not too big of a deal, but something that they would definitely want to look over in the game tape. they adjusted much more in the second half. They would kind of like overplay the post to allow these inside passes for easy buckets. It was something that got adjusted, just something that I had noted earlier, and something they'll want to look at going into practice next. And so there was a moment in the game later in the second quarter where Plum was essentially by herself with bench players. And she was with Carolyn Swords and Tamara Young and the typical bench unit. And I think if you're going to have that lineup out, which is fine, you have to go full Mike D'Antoni on them. You have to change the offense because the offense for like about 2 or 3 minute stretch of time was going through Tamara Young and Carolyn Swords, this kind of pick and roll. It didn't work, obviously. It's just not what it's set up for. What you need to do is do a high pick and roll with Carolyn Swords and Kelsey Plum and allow her to work. They got away from that, and it kind of adjusted itself once more starters came in the game. But if that is something Bill is going to legitimately do, that is exactly how you have to play it. And I think it would work well. Obviously, it works well for Houston. And then, if you've seen a Houston game, it's all they do. They burn the shot clock. James Harden's at the top of the key. Everyone clears out of the way, and he goes to work. So it works well. And I think that's something that Bill should also look at going forward. And the defense changed. It was a miracle. Besides being physical, like I mentioned earlier, there was no more double teaming in the post. I don't know where that came from this season. It doesn't work. This defense cannot have a defensive mentality of live and die by the three, because most teams will live by it, because that's just the modern WNBA. It's modern basketball. And they didn't do it. They may have done it like once or twice the entire game, and it caused like one turnover because it was just something that they ran into. It was incredible. I hope they stick with this kind of defense. It's physical. Let Liz and Asia guard the post. They're incredible defensive players. There's no need to double team. It's not going to cause as much turnovers as it is with wide open 3-point shots, as we saw against Phoenix. So today it works out again. New York is not the best team, but I hope they keep the same mentality going forward. This team still has a problem with forcing it in this like half fast break moments. That's something that has to go. They have to go over in the game tape. It wasn't a major problem in this game, but better teams will force them to do these kinds of things, and a lot of times they just need to slow down. I get that fans or even maybe the team is frustrated that their pace isn't as fast as it was last season, but having senseless turnovers is never going to help. It's going to be a big problem against good defensive teams going later in the season. I know I'm being really picky, obviously. When I watch these games, especially in person, I can see every play and I really analyze them. The team dominated today. I mean, that's all you can say at the end of the day. Liz Cambage was unguardable. Asia Wilson had another big bounce back game, just truly showing how great she is as a basketball player. Like, had the worst game of her career and just comes back the next game and is her normal self, which is a really big deal. And it's really fun to see. So good on them. Fun game to watch, obviously. Next week, I think on Thursday, it's Dollar Beer Night, so that should bring a lot of fans. Attendance has been going up. I haven't missed a home game this season, and especially when it's one of the worst teams in the league, and you have a lot of people there, so that's really, really great. I would love to, if you guys can see on the screen, it was 4,000 today, which was really good. I think that's probably more than we have been getting. Once it gets up to the 5,000 range, it'll be really good. Like, they're doing a better job of packing the TV side, like which I had mentioned in an earlier video. I believe it was Everything Wrong with WNBA Part 2. I hope they keep doing that. It makes it look more full. It makes fans a little more together, which is good, of course, and I think people are really starting to enjoy it. I'm hearing a lot of like great basketball conversations in the stands too, which is a pretty big difference from last season. It's gone from casualness to people who are legitimately analyzing and watching the game, which is really, really great for expanding the team and drawing interest. And of course, LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Westbrook were there, which is just really good. Like, obviously I don't speak for the WNBA, but if I would, that's just great for them to see, because you can put it on social media. I'm sure they'll like some tweets, whatever. But this just happened after the NBA Finals, and people are saying basketball's over, and it's up. It takes a big burden on them, not burden, but they can take on an important role like they did today, and saying like, hey, basketball season's not over. There's these really great women basketball players who can carry this momentum of the exciting finals, and them being there shows that they actually do care and they're not just being forced to say things or post things on Twitter. And they look like they're having a good time. They were just hanging out. So good on them. Thanks, guys. If you ever see this, who knows? Maybe they check this tweets after. But a really fun game. Looking forward to the next one. We'll end this by going over maybe some stats here. Just some final quick looks. We won't go over New York too much. They didn't really have any stand-up players. They essentially got dominated all. I did want to talk about, actually, for a second, Han Shu. I believe she was their second-round pick. I really like seeing international players, and I feel like that's kind of the next step maybe for the league. She's just really slow laterally, much like Carolyn Swords, but she has this, you can see, you saw spurts of this real athletic ability, and she isn't afraid to hit mid-range shots, so good on her, and I hope they keep playing her. I wish her really the best of luck going forward. Asia Wilson at 14 again. She was really, really good. Free throws, just really aggressive, getting back to where she was last season. Kayla McBride, I think she gets frustrated sometimes within the offense because she isn't as much of a focus now that Liz Cambage is there. I think Bill needs to make sure that he keeps her on the bench when Liz goes, because in the offense can flow a little more through her. It becomes a little more fast paced, and she's really good in the fast break. So hopefully that's something that he can continue, because I feel like he did that a little bit this game. Maybe just something in the back of his mind, minute management, keeping Kayla with that first unit, and then once some of them sub out, she can stay on the floor because she can get her own shot at any time, obviously. Liz was unstoppable, 17 points. Just a complete mismatch, of course. Excuse me. Jackie Young, she never had blows up the stat sheet. She had 8 assists and 8 points, was really good, but just her being aggressive changes the outlook of this team. Kelsey Plum had all of her 19 points in the first half. There wasn't really much of a second half. It was just kind of, I think they tied each other's in points in the second half. So really just status quo, blowout kind of game, 30, 40 point lead the whole time. So thanks for listening, guys. Let me know what you guys think below. And also, if you guys are interested in the tickets, please let me know as well. That'd be a really fun opportunity to meet you guys. It would mean a lot to me, actually, to kind of interact with you and grow my delivering sports brand and everything like that. So thanks for listening, guys.